Hi everyone, it's Tuesday around 1:40, and I wanted to do a short video about doing your homework technically and having a shopping list so that you can take part in all of that work that you've obviously already done. So I'm going to show you a couple of charts. The first one is Apple. Now, Apple in the last week has added enough equity to equal an entire Netflix in a week. A week ago, or even just 4 days ago, the stock was 370, and now we're looking at it at almost 440. So the question is, what's going on here? Should you be a buyer of Apple? Should you be a buyer ahead of the split or after the split? The split means absolutely nothing. It's arithmetic. If you buy it today at 440 and you bought a share, you would have 4 shares at 110. So that's not really the issue. But what is the issue is the fact that if you look at this chart, you will see how far away we are from the 200-day MA, about 50% away from it. The line down here, the blue line, is on balance volume, and the red line is a 75-day linear regression. So what happens is the stock gets overbought and comes from oversold. So while the line is going in a direction generally higher, because the trend is generally higher. I know that sounds like an understatement here, but the fact of the matter is we get stretched. And while these moves down don't really look like much, here's another one right here where we got about almost as overbought as we are today. This translates into a range of 320 on the high and 4 days later 300. So that's a fairly substantial move. You have the same thing here. The move was from 355 before it bottomed to 330. So, these are pretty strong moves. And in point of fact, in a stock that's trending higher, that's actually a good thing. But you have to be ready, and you have to have made a decision. Most of these, if you look at it on a weekly basis, you can see that when we've gotten this kind of overbought, here's one where we went from 215 in 5 weeks down to 170. So 215 to 170 is 45 points on 215. That's over 20%. The point is that you have to be willing to look at these things and believe what they're telling you. Right here, they were telling you the stock is oversold and stretched about as far as it gets to the downside. What happened? Well, we came down one more week and reversed back up. The reversal, if you just waited until it went back to up on the week, would have netted you a move from in the low 230s straight up. So the idea of where we are right now is we are about as overbought as we get. We're stretched. Could the stock come down, I don't know, 390, 383? Could it come all the way back down and test here? That would be roughly a 1/4 to 1/3 pullback. Definitely something that if you're looking to buy, you ought to be looking at that kind of range and just having it in the background. Another one like this is Tesla. This chart is very smoothed out simply because of the distance it's traveled. We're talking about 200 here, we're talking about 1800 here, 900%. So the idea is, where would you buy this stock? Well, here's the daily. It made the high at 1800, came back down almost exactly to where it had broken out of the last little running correction, made a lower high, made a slightly higher high than this 2 weeks earlier, but definitely lower than 1800, and came down. So what does this look like? Well, we have the Bollinger Bands right here getting more and more narrow. We have a slight downtrend in the stock, but we also have a downtrend in volume. This is one that, volume precedes price, and the fact that we've been going sideways and declining, you have to look at the on-balance volume, which right now is negative. It's under the linear regression. Could it get further under? Absolutely. Could this be a little bear trap, higher lows and then a breakdown? Well, it could be, except that this area around 14 or 1430, let's call it 1425, would be an excellent place to be a buyer of this. So I would keep my eyes open on this one. And if we get there, nobody wants to take a loss. But if you buy the stock at 1426, you know that 1400 is a problem, and 1366 is some pretty major support. In fact, you also have support at 1380. So, when you're talking about a stock that can, over a 5-day period, go from 1,000 to 1,800, or even less than that, 1,000 to 1,500. When you're looking at a move of 50%, 10% risk is still 5-1 in your favor. The last one I want to look at is Disney, because Disney reports tonight. This is the daily. Let's look at the weekly. The weekly has worked its way into kind of an interesting little pattern here. We have an uptrend line here, and we have a pretty strong downtrend line here. So what we're actually getting into is a little bit of an apex. The 5-day has turned back up. This is a weekly, actually, so this is a 5-week, has turned back up. We're also resting on the 200-week moving average, and the Bollinger Bands are contracting. So, what do you do about this? Well, in this one, we know the earnings are going to be poor. The issue is the park in Orlando has been open a couple of weeks. What kind of reading are we going to get from them, and what kind of guidance? I would say the guidance is probably going to be somewhat positive. You also have Disney Plus, the streaming service, and you also have a market that, while it is not as extreme on the oversold side as it was here, it is as it was here before it rallied from 110 to 120. Here, we're getting a slight turn up. And again, we're talking about a stock that's trading at 118, that if we break this closing low at 109, we're wrong. On the other hand, it's been a nice kind of consolidation, and if the numbers come in better than expected, or the guidance is better than expected, there's no issue with the fact that the stock could take off again and trade back to the highs here, or back to it's in the same area, back to the upper Bollinger Band. And if you're looking to play something in the very short term, there are options that expire on Friday. This might be one that you'd want to play. All right, everyone. I just wanted to give you a brief update on these three big names, and I will be back tonight with my closing comment. Have a good afternoon.